Hey everyone, so today we're diving into a topic that's pretty much everywhere you look in the health world, intermittent fasting. But look, this isn't about some new fad diet. We're going to treat it as a pattern of eating, a schedule really, that's getting some serious attention from scientists. Why? Because it might just have the power to change our bodies on a deep, cellular level. So let's pull back the curtain and see what the science actually says is going on inside us when we start messing with the clock on our meals.
And really, that brings us to the biggest question of all, the one we're going to keep coming back to. Could changing when you eat actually change how you age? I mean, that's a pretty powerful idea, right? That just the timing of our food could kickstart processes that protect our health and maybe even influence how long we live well.
Okay, so what exactly is intermittent fasting, or IF as you'll see it called? Well, simply put, it's an eating pattern where you cycle between times you eat and times you, voluntarily don't. And here's the real kicker, the thing that makes it so different from a diet. The focus isn't on what you're eating, it's all about when you're eating.
Now, to really get why this timing is so important, we have to look under the hood at this fundamental process our bodies can go through. It's called the metabolic switch. You can think of this as the master key that fasting turns in the lock.
So here's how it plays out. Step 1, you're in what's called the fed state. Your body's just cruising along using glucose from your last meal for energy. Easy enough. But then, after about 10 to 14 hours with no food, something happens. Your liver's backup stash of glucose, it's called glycogen, it runs out. And that's the trigger for the switch. Your liver starts taking fat and turning it into this amazing alternative fuel source called ketones. It's like a super efficient backup generator for your brain and body, powered directly by your fat stores.
And check this out. This really breaks down the two completely different worlds our body can live in. On one side, you've got that fed state. You're running on sugar, insulin is high, and your body's main job is storing energy. But when you flip that switch over to the fasted state, or ketosis, the whole game changes. Now you're fueled by ketones from fat, insulin levels take a nosedive, and your body shifts its focus from storage to using energy, and, this is huge, to cellular repair.
And that shift into a repair-focused state, this is where things get really cool. It brings us to an even deeper, more profound process, this incredible cellular mechanism called autophagy. The best way to think about it? It's your body's own internal cleanup and recycling crew.
Yeah, I know. The word itself literally means self-eating, which sounds a little weird, right? But that's exactly what it is. It's your body's natural built-in system for your cells to basically take out the trash. All the junk, the broken parts, the stuff that doesn't work anymore, and to literally rejuvenate themselves. It's absolutely essential for keeping ourselves healthy and running in top shape.
So the big question is, when does this deep cleaning process actually get going? Well, the research gives us a kind of rough timeline. We start to see evidence of it picking up in some human cells after about 24 hours of fasting. Now, in animal studies, where it's a lot easier to measure this stuff, it seems to peak around the 48-hour mark. For us humans, it might take a bit longer, maybe 2 to 4 days to reach really significant levels. So yeah, shorter fasts definitely have benefits, but to unlock this deeper cellular cleanup, it looks like it takes a bit more of a prolonged effort.
Okay, so you've flipped the metabolic switch, you've called in the cleanup crew. What happens next? Well, these changes at the cellular level start a ripple effect, leading to a whole host of potential health benefits that honestly are just genuinely fascinating.
One of the most exciting areas for sure is how it might protect our brains. Studies are suggesting that fasting, by firing up that autophagy process we just talked about, could help our brains clear out some really nasty proteins. Things like the amyloid beta plaques that are linked to Alzheimer's and the alpha-synuclein clumps you see with Parkinson's.
And the potential wins don't just stop at the brain, not by a long shot. Studies also point to things like better heart health markers, think blood pressure and cholesterol, improvements in metabolic health, especially better insulin sensitivity, a drop in the markers we see for chronic inflammation, and just an all-around boost in our cells' ability to handle stress.
But hold on. Before you run off and try this, it is absolutely crucial to understand that this is not some kind of one-size-fits-all magic pill. So it's time for a reality check. Is intermittent fasting really a good idea for everyone?
Okay, and here's a really big one, how fasting might affect men and women differently. Some studies suggest men can get a nice metabolic boost from it, but for women, the body's response might be the opposite, to actually slow down metabolism to conserve energy. It could even mess with the menstrual cycle. And honestly, here's the most important takeaway from this slide. We just don't have enough data on women. The vast majority of research has focused on men, and that is a massive gap in our understanding.
All right, another really common and totally valid question is about muscle. I mean, if you're not eating for long stretches, is your body just going to start munching on your muscles for fuel?
So, is it a real risk? Yeah, it can be, but the research shows it's also pretty manageable. The key seems to be making sure you're getting enough protein when you do eat. To hang on to your muscle mass while you're fasting, studies suggest you should aim for about 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein for every kilogram you weigh, and you gotta make sure you get all of that in during your eating window.
So, let's just wrap up with a few final, super important things to keep in mind. First, remember, a lot of this research is still new, or it's based on animal studies. We need more good human trials. Second, you gotta expect an adjustment period. That first month can be rough. You might feel hungry, cranky, you name it. Third, this is not a license to eat garbage. The quality of the food you eat still matters a lot. And most important of all, talk to a doctor or a healthcare professional before you start anything like this, especially if you have any health conditions.
Which brings us right back to where we started. The science is pointing to these incredibly powerful mechanisms inside our own cells that can be turned on just by changing the timing of our meals. It's not about starving yourself forever. It's about giving your body these strategic moments of rest to repair and recharge. So I'll leave you with that big question. By changing when we eat, can we fundamentally change how we age?